Hi, this is Don Williams, editor of Ultimate Motorcycling Magazine, and I'm here with the new 2019 Honda Super Cub 125 and its great-grandfather, I suppose, the Honda 50. Back in 1970, my father decided that the family should be involved in camping. And since we had a travel trailer, he knew people that had kids that rode dirt bikes, and he decided it was time for me to have a motorcycle. And it was something that I had never even thought about having or getting, but he bought it for me. He bought a Honda 50 from my cousin, and he got it for $50, and he put another $50 in, which meant they tuned up the carburetor and put a knobby rear tire on the back. So that was my dirt bike. I went out dirt bike riding. I would ride from when the sun came up to the sun came down. And I loved that motorcycle, even though I only had it for 3 months, but it got me going, and here I am almost 50 years later riding a Honda Super Cub 125. Now, these motorcycles look remarkably similar. You can see the lineage here. I don't have to point out all the things that are the same. So instead, I'll just point out the things that are different. Obviously, the big change is that they went to they now have a 125cc motor compared to the 50. And the difference in performance is gigantic. The 125 is fuel injected, overhead cam, 2-valve motor, still air cooled. They both have centrifugal clutches, so you don't have to use a clutch to change gears. You just shift yourself and it goes into neutral as you use the shifter. The Super Cub 125 now has forks instead of leading link front suspension, and as you'll see, it also has a disc brake rather than a drum brake. Now, riding this bike all day today in Los Angeles, this is just an amazing city bike. It's got narrow handlebars, you don't have to worry about the clutch, good enough power to stay out of the way of traffic, and it's just fun to ride. It doesn't vibrate excessively. It's got electric start. The tires, they're very narrow little 17-inch tires, but they're about the width of my thumb. But they still have plenty of traction when you lean over. Even in the wet today we were riding, the 125 doesn't really put enough power out to need traction control. So if you get on the throttle, it just moves forward. But I was always surprised at how much traction I had in the wet today. And then in the dry, you can just ride it like a regular motorcycle and have a whole lot of fun. This is just an excellent motorcycle for somebody new. They have the Honda Grom, they have the Monkey 125, and both those bikes use basically the same motor as this one, but they use a clutch that's manual that you have to use with your left hand. This one, no lever. It's not the DCT, which I would like it to be, because the DCT is one of my favorite features, the dual clutch transmission that does the shifting for you. This one, you still have to shift it yourself, but you don't have to use a clutch. It's still easy to use, but not quite as easy as a DCT. But with all the features, like I said, electric start, it has many of the aspects of a scooter, but without, I'll say, the stigma that some people have for scooters, that they're not really motorcycles and they want to ride a motorcycle. One disadvantage the Super Cub 125 has to a scooter is that it does not have any storage. You have the seat here, and it looks like that if you flipped up the seat, I don't have the key, so I can't do it right now. It requires a key to flip up. Flip it up, there's actually the gas tank. So this is the gas tank area under here. But having ridden the bike in the rain today, it was great to have the fairing. Great to have the long balanced fenders. The little edge at the back here makes sure that you don't spray yourself or the person behind you. Same in the front. It's just really an extremely fun, extremely approachable, extremely affordable motorcycle. And of the three 125 Hondas, it may not initially appeal the most to a new rider, but it may be the best one for a new rider. An experienced rider can ride any of the three and have a great time. Everything Honda did with this bike is pretty much what you would want it to be if you remember the original Honda 50 that came out in the early 60s. And the modernization of it is just enough to make it completely relevant in 2019 without forgetting 1962. Won't take you on the freeway, but it will get you on any urban street without having to worry about yourself getting run over by some guy in a Tesla. You know, as somebody who was an original Honda 50 owner back in not quite the 1960s, but 1970, I really do love the Super Cub 125. I'm so glad that I got to come ride it. As soon as I saw it, I said, I have to ride that bike because I had the original. And it did not disappoint me in any way. And I even got to ride this for a few minutes, and it didn't disappoint me either. And that's kind of a good feeling, because sometimes nostalgia on motorcycles is not all that it's cracked up to be. Anyway, so that's it for the 2019 Honda Super Cub 125.